Representative Lesch, this is your 9th session at the House, so you're closing in on 2 decades. What keeps you motivated to continue your work here at the legislature?
The motivation is really, once you've been here this long, you get to a point where you really know how to get things done. You also know how difficult it is to get some things done. And you're better able to place whether something is going to be a short-term solution or whether it's going to take several sessions or whether it's going to take 10 years. I've had some bills that have taken 10 years to conclude. I've had some bills that I've carried for 13 years and they're still not passed, like earned sick and safe leave, and those take longer. So really understanding the lay of the land, the map of the Capitol, how things happen and who can help you make things happen is one of the, I think, best assets of being able to say, okay, here's what I've learned, and here's what I can do, and being chair of judiciary now is very helpful in that context as well, too. I'm learning new things as chair of a finance committee that I hadn't learned before also.
Pretty short commute for you to
Yes.
here to the Capitol. Tell us
Yes.
about your part of St. Paul that you represent and what's important, what issues are important to your constituents.
I've got Hamlin Midway, including Hamlin University, all abutting up to the State Fair. I've got Como Park. I've got the North End, and I've still got some of the East Side. I've lost a lot of the East Side that I used to have 10 years ago, 8 years ago, but I've still got some East Side neighborhoods. The really most important things to them are opportunities to succeed, and that means access to decent paying jobs with good benefits, something that you can support a family on, access to housing, affordable housing, that you can live in. Workforce housing is really important to them. Transportation is getting far more difficult for folks in the city. We need to provide the density, reducing vehicle miles traveled to make sure we cut down on pollution and our impact to climate change as well. And then healthcare. Access to healthcare is something that has gotten out of the average person's reach, and that can cause major financial problems for people. And then finally, access to a fair and decent education. The open enrollment and school options are good, but if you find yourself driving your kid to Minnetonka every morning because that's the kind of education you want over there, that's not a good life, driving across town in rush hour and driving back. So we need decent education opportunities in our community for families as well.
So back in 2009, you enlisted in the Minnesota National Guard.
That's right.
Can you tell us about that experience and, if any, what effect it had on your political approach?
Well, number one, I'm kind of I guess a veteran of large institutions that I've learned how they work. And I didn't know the military. I knew that's what the military was, but I was in the seminary, so I kind of understood the politics of the Catholic Church. And I worked for the city of St. Paul for 17 years. I understood that bureaucracy. And being in state government, by that point, I had already been in for almost 7 years, so I understood the nature of a behemoth like state government. Getting in the military was a real eye-opener because it's a very large and very old organization. I enlisted during a time of war because I wanted to serve my country in that capacity. It was something that I had always wanted to do. I felt like I was in the position to be able to help, and so that's why, even though I was a lawyer, I didn't go JAG, I went infantry, because that's considered the toughest way to branch as an officer, and that's what I wanted to do. The things that I learned there is that the military is an institution not unlike a lot of other large old institutions. And if you want to do good things to affect positive change, not just protect your country, but also bring opportunities to folks, winning the hearts and minds, you really have to be effective politically in that organization to do it. In the military, they call it expanding influence outside the chain of command. It doesn't always go up and down like that. Sometimes you got to establish friendships and relationships with NCOs in other fields and other branches, and that's how you can really help folks. And I enjoyed learning that.
Let's bring it back to 2020. What would you say are the most important areas the legislature should focus on this session?
Number one, bonding. We need to have a robust bonding bill. Governor Walz put forth the bold approach of over $2 billion. And it's time for that. It's within our debt capacity to do over $2 billion. I was pleased to hear the Republicans even kind of concede that it was going to be a larger bill. They, Kurt Dowd said it was not going to be a 2 in front of it, but that was the most of the fight that he had put up on that. Now, the important thing about a big bonding bill is this. You take the best jobs that we can provide for people in our community. In my district, for example, take good union jobs, like building trades jobs, okay? These are jobs that'll pay you $35, $37, $39 an hour as a journeyman, and before that, you're getting 70% coming in with no schooling. You're getting 70% of that for 3 to 4 years, okay? That is huge. Plus, they take care of your benefits. Those jobs also provide equality no matter your race, your sex, your religion, your gender, whatever. I mean, it's really important to have those. We can't provide a pipeline to those good jobs without a big bonding bill to provide the work that those folks do, because there's not enough apprentices in the pipeline to fill those slots. So one of the most important things we do to provide a vibrant Minnesota for every single income level is a robust bonding bill, so we can do that. Second, the public safety judiciary agenda that we have for decriminalization of poverty. Okay, as a prosecutor for 15 years, I saw how crap flows downhill, and a lot of crimes are simply due to the fact that someone doesn't have the money to stay ahead. And maybe other folks, they can pay their fines and get their license valid, and other folks can't afford it. Other people can't bail out, so they lose their job. You lose your job, you lose your housing, you lose your car. There's these compound effects of poverty that we fail to recognize. Our agenda for decriminalization of poverty, reduction of fines and fees, bail reform, probation reform, forfeiture reform, all these things are really important pieces of that. The third piece is earned sick and safe leave, something that is available to over half Minnesotans, but not folks at the lower end of the income spectrum, food service workers, child care workers. These are the people we need to have sick days, okay? Because they're working with our kids and they're working with our food, okay? Anyone who has young kids at home understands how much you get sick, okay? Because they're bringing home. So we need to provide that. And then one of the most significant proposals I think that I'm working on with Attorney General Keith Ellison is our anti-price gouging bill. The inaccessibility of insulin and all prescription drugs in Minnesota is unconscionable. These are essential drugs that people need to live. And if a pharmaceutical company is able to just declare a price on them, and they said the value of this life-saving medication is simply what I can get someone to pay for it, that's wrong. And we want to change that. So that's another piece of I think we're going to try to do this session.
And just finally, I had to ask you about this before I let you go. Some people would say Representative Lucero is the best dressed or has the maybe the flashiest suits, but I was always a Lesch guy myself. So
of course I come in with no tie.
Well, we'll put some video over the top, I'm sure. But where do you get the suits and where do you get the style from?
So I learned this in college. I was an intern in the Office of Admissions. I got a job working work study in admissions. And you had to wear a tie for that job. You know, college kids don't wear ties, right?
Right.
So I wore a tie. Well, I was also poor in college. I didn't have any money, so I was always going to the financial aid office to see what scholarships and stuff were available. I was in there every other week, sometimes every week. And I found out that when I walked over there after my shift in admissions, when I had the tie on, it was very different, the response that I got from folks who were willing to help. I mean, incredibly different if I came in with a t-shirt and cargo shorts and Birkenstocks versus a shirt and a tie. I got a very different response from the women behind the counter. Sure. And so that was important to me. I thought it was effective, and so I started dressing up more. And when I got through law school, I did the same thing. And then when I got to Capitol, I learned, hey, you know, you wear a tie and to a meeting, show respect for people, show that you take your job seriously. My clothes I get from two places: a union-made shop. It's not made in Minnesota, out of Tennessee, but it's American-made and union-made. And it costs a little more, but I like to support the union workers that way. And they make them custom there. And the other place is Jaime's Haberdashery right here in downtown St. Paul. Anthony Andler down there runs a great shop at Jaime's. I get my hair cut there too. I'm a little overdue for a haircut, but he runs a great shop down there too.
Representative Lesch, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.